Kita sudah sampai di Jerome. Sekarang jam 9:04 atau 9:05. Kotanya sangat bagus, sangat indah. Dia ada di tepi tebing gitu. Dan ini merupakan kota peninggalan sejarah Amerika yang terlibat dalam pertambangan tembaga. Ini adalah bekas rumah daripada James S. Douglas.
Now, in 1864, a cavalry post was established at Fort 30 under the command of General Crook and General Miles to protect the early settlers of the Verde Valley who were establishing farms and searching for minerals. By 1876, prospectors had located 10 claims and a village site, and the rest, as they say, is history. But time, with the help or hindrance of people and progress, has a way of eroding history. It is to the credit of Jerome's most bold and foresighted citizens that over the years so much of her history has managed to survive, if not always well preserved. You know, this town is older than the state of Arizona, the 48th state in the Union. Frederick A. Trifle, before he was governor of the territory, assisted in the organization of the United Verde Copper Company, and the camp was named Jerome in honor of Eugene M. Jerome of New York, secretary and treasurer of the enterprise. The next year, 1883, I think, the company became a New York corporation, with James A. McDonald, an insurance executive, as president, Trifle as vice president, and Jerome, who was a prominent New York attorney and a cousin of Jennie Jerome, Sir Winston Churchill's mother. How do you like that? Well, he was designated secretary. The company was capitalized for $3 million, and the issuance of 300,000 shares at a par value of $10 each was authorized. 75 men, mostly Irish, were employed at the mine and smelter at wages of between $3 and $4 a day. That same year the Jerome Post Office was established, and then a year later in '84, a financial panic hit New York, depressing the metal market, and by fall copper prices suffered a drastic decline. In October the smelter and mines were closed, following a strike by the workmen because payment of their wages was delayed. Do you blame them? Well, if it hadn't been the strike, it would have been something else. Heck, we had 60 miles of road to all this stuff from the mines, and all of it by mule. Nevertheless, the town busied itself building the first schoolhouse. The Barn Street Elementary School building replaced the old schoolhouse in the mid-1920s, and was used until the early 50s. And still here, as you can see, now the home of the town hall and public library. The prize for Jerome's oldest building goes to the warehouse. Over 100 years old, it survived 3 devastating fires in the decade it was built, a good record by a standard. Here's what's left of the Fort War. Blood you self that in your brain. You know, fires were a heap of trouble in those days. Fact, One reason we got ourselves incorporated was to get a water system to fight 'em. City ordinances too. Brick don't burn like wood, now doesn't. Figure this, the fire of 1898 alone cost Jerome 24 saloons and 14 Chinese restaurants. Fun. There was a lot more going on in town than just fires before the turn of the century. In 1888, when William A. Clark of Montana optioned a large majority of stock in the copper company, he helped set off Jerome's first big boom. 2 years later, the Jerome Public Library was founded. And in 1893, the branch railroad from Prescott to Ashworth was completed. Foul illusion. And enough of those mules. Clark connected Jerome to this new road by a narrow-gauge railroad from Chino Valley. It was built in only 4 months and cost $600,000. In 1895, the first train arrived in Jerome, and the town was ready to go into the 20th century with both barrels loaded. I guess they saw me coming. Not only were we incorporated, but already the 4th largest town in the Arizona territory. A new smelter went into production with a capacity of between 3.5 and 5 million pounds of copper a month. And a year later, the United Verde Copper Company was making a profit of $1 million a month. Imagine that. $1 million a month. It was at this time Jerome's first newspaper was established by Herbert E. Wilcox. The Jerome Chronicle was in fact only the first of many papers, succeeded by the Jerome Mining News, the Jerome Recorder, Jerome Copper Belt, Jerome's Sun, and the Verde Copper News. Still, some of the biggest news were the fires. The one in 1894 began underground in one of the upper levels in the United Verde mine. The fire eaters, they were specially trained Spaniards from the Rio Tinto tin mines in Spain, were brought in, but to no avail. Then we had a fire on Christmas Eve, lit up a heck of a lot more than a few Christmas trees, let me tell you. Then another one in 99. The 20th century rolled in at a full gallop and a sizzle too. But not before George W. Hall organized the United Verde Extension Gold, Silver, and Copper Mining Company. Now Jerome was at its height, with company-owned hospitals and dentists like Dr. Lee A. Hawkins, self-taught, made his own tools. He owned the first automobile in Jerome. Look at that. And speaking of transportation, Jerome was quite progressive, and we didn't lack for ways of getting around or delivering goods. Sometimes it was with horses, mules, or a homemade automobile, and taxi services were available. We even had ourselves a motorcycle rally to Camp Ferdinand. The fire department utilized modern equipment to try to keep the town in one piece, though our mountain streets still created perils when the brakes failed. Look out, and the trains, here's the depot, came in handy for traveling around the region. Senator Clark owned a custom-made car with all the comforts of home. But he could well afford it. Thanks to the mines, he was one of the wealthiest men in America. Jerome was the shopping center for the entire Verde Valley. Almost anything we needed was available. Entertainment, too. We had theaters, restaurants, even an opera house. The bill of fare of the opera house, that was on the 3rd floor of the Masonic building, there he is. In October of 1900, read Bennigan's Ball, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the then popular temperance play, 10 Nights in a Bar Room. Well, a lot of good that did. We had plenty of bar rooms. Of course, if you were a woman in 1905, you were out of luck, for that was the year that the council under Mayor Hall decided to bar women from saloons. In 2006, the foes of gambling lost out to the gamblers, at least for a while. But saloons and hotels were many and prosperous, well into the new century. The fashion saloon, during Prohibition, was turned into a drugstore. Today it's the home of the buying you see. This was the Fartlet Hotel, believe it or not. Now it's the site of ruins and a coin toss. Be careful you don't hit me, 'cause I like wandering around down there. At one time, the Bartlett housed liquor stores, the Bank of Jerome, a newspaper, restaurant, and a mortuary. I was there for a spell. And the Montana Hotel. Oh, she was a sight. Though she's long gone. Was at one time Arizona's largest and most luxurious hotel with 200 rooms, a huge dining room, spacious lobby, and breathtaking chandeliers. It was destroyed by fire in 1915 and never rebuilt. And how about the Connor Hotel? Time's taken a toll. But she remains, after being gutted by fire twice and rebuilt again out of brick. It was also the home of the Connor Cafe and became a sort of early tourist spot when the Cuban Queen, one of Jerome's most noted madams, chose the cafe as the place to take her girls out for dinner every Sunday. More about bit of the mitten. Bagaimana. An editorial from the early days of the Jerome Journal states, "There is practically no crime in Jerome. Deeds of violence are all but unknown." Well, if that was not altogether accurate, it is true that the town seat in your side was pretty well hidden from the rest of the world. Townsfolk knew better, though. One woman practically everyone knew was the town's most famous madam, Jenny Bowders. In our heyday, Jerome was home to as many as 120 womenfolk in the Red Light District, in bordellos, and Jenny was the main matter. She owned her own two-story building, and some people said she was the richest woman in northern Arizona. When her building was destroyed in each of the 3 big fires, she managed to rebuild it almost as quick as it was destroyed. Insurance and jewels paid for that, though I suspect some of us would have helped too if needed. She was the first property owner in a business district to build a sidewalk in front of her building. One can only wonder why. I don't. Jenny also managed to survive a scandal with one of her girls was murdered, after which the killer committed suicide. Years later, the story goes, Jenny herself was shot down in the street by an ex-boyfriend, an opium addict in Gold Road, Arizona. One of our toughest sheriffs was Johnny Hudgens, who let that baby face fool you. He carried big guns, didn't hesitate to use them, and he kept law and order in Jerome for over 10 years. I stayed out of his way. In 2005, the council, in addition to firing women from saloons, told the prostitutes to pack up and leave town. But the following year, well, after a new council was elected here, the women were permitted to stay, so long as they rewarded for a physical examination, plus a month. Having closed many years ago, all that remains now of the cribs, that was the home and workplace of the ladies of the night, an empty life. A sorry tribute, I'd say.